Most people think that the way to change their life is to quit their job and take a big risk. But the smartest startups in the world actually do the opposite. They reduce risk before they make a move. Instead of betting everything on one idea, they run small experiments and double down on what actually works. Now in this video, I want to show you how to think like a startup while keeping your day job. Not by working 16-hour days or building a massive side hustle overnight, but by adopting 4 simple habits that change how you make decisions about time, skills, and opportunities. Now, if you're someone who wants more freedom, options, and control over your future, then these habits are going to help. Habit 1 is to stop thinking in goals and start thinking in experiments. So most people will treat career moves like huge, irreversible decisions. Should I change careers? Should I start a business? These questions feel heavy, so we delay them. But startups approach this quite differently. Instead of asking, is this the right decision? They will ask something like, what's the smallest experiment that we can run? It's a small difference, but it has a huge impact, because knowing we're only experimenting helps to reduce that pressure that we feel. Imagine someone thinks they might enjoy consulting. A traditional mindset will think, should I quit and become a consultant? Whereas a startup mindset will say something like, can I try one small consulting project first? It might be helping a friend's business or doing a short freelance project on the weekend. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like a big risk anymore. You're not changing your life, you're just collecting data. So instead of asking, should I change direction? You could try asking, what's the smallest experiment that I can run over the next 30 days? And many successful companies started this way. For example, the founders of Airbnb didn't launch a global platform first. They simply rented out air mattresses in their apartment to test demand. And habit 2, measure traction, not excitement. Here's another mistake people make when trying new things. We confuse excitement with progress. Something feels exciting, so we assume it must be working. The thing is, that excitement we feel is actually internal. Now startups, on the other hand, they care about something else. External traction, which is real behaviour from other people. Imagine you start writing a newsletter. Instead of asking, do I enjoy writing this? A startup mindset will say, did anyone subscribe? Did they reply? Did they share it? Because traction shows real demand, and people's behaviour is so much harder to fake than enthusiasm. If you try consulting, traction might look to you like repeat clients, referrals, or people asking for help again. So whenever you run an experiment, define one clear result you're watching. Something like, if 5 people ask for help with this, then I'm going to keep going. Or, if this saves people 2 hours per week, then I'll start expanding it. You get a clear result and a clear decision. And that's how startups decide what's actually worth building. And habit 3 is to build assets, not just tasks. So most employees will think in tasks, finish the presentation, send the email, attend the meeting. Now these tasks will disappear once they're completed, but startups will think differently. They try to build things like assets, something that continues to create value after the work is actually done. Imagine you solve the same Excel problem every week for your team. Instead of fixing it again and again, you could create a reusable template, a short tutorial, or a documented process on it. Now that work you've done now compounds. And outside your job, assets might look like a portfolio, a website, a network of contacts. So a useful question to ask before starting work is, will this still exist in 6 months? If the answer is no, then see if you can convert it into something reusable. Because over time, your assets will quietly expand your opportunities, whereas completing tasks only maintains that present situation. And habit 4 is to protect your runway. Now the biggest reason people never experiment with new ideas isn't laziness, it's to do with pressure. When your finances are tight, every decision will feel risky, and risk kills experimentation. That's why the startups are obsessed with something called runway. Runway simply means how long you can survive without new income. For example, if your monthly expenses are $3,000 and you have $9,000 saved, then you have 3 months of runway. That breathing room changes how confidently you can experiment. But runway isn't just savings. It also comes from low fixed expenses, flexible lifestyles, and your transferable skills. When your financial pressure is low, you can test more ideas calmly. You don't need to quit your job, you just need margin. Because having more options comes from having more breathing room. And here's where this gets powerful. Now these 4 habits will reinforce each other. First, you run the small experiments instead of making big decisions. You measure real traction instead of relying on excitement. You build assets instead of only completing tasks. And you protect your runway so you can keep experimenting. Now, over time, this will create something incredibly valuable. That's reduce risk and increase options. Because instead of betting everything on one uncertain move, you're slowly building evidence on what actually works. So once a month, spend 20 minutes asking yourself, what experiments did I run? What traction did I see? Or how about, what assets did I build? Then choose a new experiment for the next month. And then that's it. After a year, you might have tested new skills, new income streams, new ideas. So some will fail, and that's normal. But one or two will create unexpected leverage, and that's exactly how the startups will grow. So here's a question to leave you with. What's one career idea you've been overthinking instead of testing? It doesn't have to be like a 5-year plan. It's just one small experiment that you could run over the next month. And write it down and define one result that tells you if it's working. Because the goal isn't to quit your job overnight. The goal is something much more powerful. To start thinking like a startup. Running small experiments, following the real signals, and quietly building options until one of them will change everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.